So many of you guys have been asking for a charcoal tutorial, so here we are. Let's do a charcoal tutorial. Hi, my name is Taylor Jakeway. I make art that makes you feel, and I'm here to help other artists make better art. We're gonna be looking at a couple recordings of the process that it took to create this piece right here. Honestly, I just love charcoal. Let's dive into it. When approaching charcoal, a lot of people are familiar with condensed charcoal. That honestly is just better suited for later in the process. However, we're gonna be using willow or vine charcoal, which looks like this, and it is more accessible, more workable, and the bulk of your charcoal drawings. We start by covering the page with that willow charcoal. It's a very light dusting layer. That's going to be our base to work from. Then I usually go in with brushes. I have these makeup brushes that I don't use that are perfect and fluffy for working the charcoal dust. I end up using a variety of brush sizes as I do this, and the brushwork actually helps a lot with getting your sketch layer done. I often just start with the brushes and push the dust around. So you're dust painting basically. Then I come back in with the vine charcoal to use as a more direct tool by sketching. You can make harder, darker lines with vine charcoal. It's just a matter of how you apply it and the pressure you use when you're applying it. As the piece is developed in this way, you are actually going to be using these lines not only as a guide, but almost like a mid-tone, so to get that kind of softer edge for an added bit of realism for your value ranges. Then I go back in with my brushes to kind of add my highlight zones. Now these are not my final highlights since I'm still using a fair bit of the charcoal dust in a very thin layer, but I'm just pushing around that charcoal dust to create my highlight layers, the areas that I want to be lighter, and pushing those values. Again, with pushing those values, I bring in a kneaded eraser to kind of do soft erasing to really make things brighter in certain areas. This eraser is really flexible. You can knead it by just kind of rolling it around and stretching it. Sometimes it needs to be reshaped like I'm doing here to create a sharper edge, but this also creates a very, very soft edge. It's not super harsh like some erasers are. The second most known charcoal are charcoal pencils. Those are also very accessible, and I do have a variety of them. I usually work softest to hardest for the firmness level. You can figure out your firmness level by looking at the numbers and the letter on the charcoal pencils. Usually it will have an H or a B next to the number. The higher the number, the more soft or the more hard it is. If it's an H, that stands for hard. If it's a B, that stands for soft. Much of the time when I'm using a charcoal pencil, I am redefining an area that has lost its sharpness, and I'm also adding in value ranges. I use them to get my other mid-tones and darker tones. I use smudge sticks like this one here to kind of blend those areas out after I've applied a section of the charcoal pencil. For the brightest highlight, I use a harsher eraser, usually a rotary eraser, and then again I go back and forth with the pencils and then blending again and just kind of going back and forth working those values. I like to call that method a push and a pull. Once I've defined those values, I can start on the fun part, which is the detail work. It really brings the piece together and brings it to life as you add more and more little details, but you want to be able to push certain areas back. I do define the wings, for instance, but I tried to leave certain areas more softened, like the very tips and the edges on certain parts. When it comes to getting those rich, dark charcoal colors, you want to save your condensed charcoal for the very end and your darkest charcoal pencil for the very, very end. Same thing with your final highlights. I know some people like to use white charcoal, but I've never found a white charcoal that I like, so I just don't. I will often tape down my edges to keep the paper still, but also to create this nice border that you carefully peel off. I didn't use condensed charcoal with this piece, but that's because I wanted this softness. Now look at that. Now that you've seen how to make a charcoal drawing, I would love to see what you guys do from this process. If you liked this tutorial, please let me know in the comments. Also, please mention anything you would like me to cover in the next tutorial. I hope that you guys have a really great day and that you continue to stay weird. Like, comment, subscribe, and happy dreaming!